Good morning, Rinpoche. Welcome to the Zoom room.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you here.
We are very happy seeing you here, and we are ready for the money retreat.
Good.
Now we were waiting for Garchen Rinpoche.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. People, you can prepare your own kara in advance. We all welcome Garchen Rinpoche to the Zoom room right away.
Don't watch it over and better. You try to color your way. Somebody to run about Lapodetany. When I'm going to run about Samalatry, touch the lecture. Come on. Long life.
So Rinpoche said, first I would like to say I'm Dashi Dele, led mainly by, first of all, to Dodin Rinpoche, and then all the other Dharma friends who are joining us on the live stream from all over the world, and especially the Dharma friends from Vietnam. Dashi Dele.
Dashi Dele Rinpoche Jawa Gawo Chong.
Go on. Go to Jajan, Jajan Mabo, so none the other. If Jichilla Santa was a mother, Jata, giving his own religion. Jutta Choja, Chilla Santa Lord, only to all Lapatala of the Great, and my own vision, Genula, Santa, do Jajan. Mamma Mila Jagama, Pomodoba Javan, Kajula Manoso, and the woman sitting in your colony as a Sayaku Yamoni. Rasim Chugam most of the devil, Savel Lomishon, so and the Susan Longan and the Chuchi. Yapso me point or Jilla, so simply or the Dachina. Amba Chujin and the Train when I'm going to money to tea. What's up? To body. They had to go as on board. Tati, you want that don't make a capture the Chuba open by your Marie. The kind of the that meant the kitchen horror on young. The same the chicken book country. Share your Marie. Young Saji Compactor, young is also the day. 양을 좋아하고 참 뛰면 참도를 말하더니 선 대식 좀 먹고 제체베 이 때문에 담배 취시 받을 가지나 고요리 담배 취시 받을 좋다 그래서 삼형제 취되는 취는 뭐 삼형제래 삼형제가 누구한테 가야들이 다 삼형제 의서더니 이 라속도 또 맞으니 바꿔지내서 그래 그래서 대도 치고 어떻게 되더니 한장 까봐서 노래 이 대답들이 토마다는 진짜로 롱 제대로 해도 되잖아. 말아 롱 총총 탐지더니 요당 미시다 지금은 롱 뒤바고 이제 얘네한테는 나도 공치에서 그런 빠져는 뭐 시한자고 값을 들이 마음 봐라 왕다 롱게 저 콩다 제대 그런 게 윤진고 송들이잖아. 가도롱도 나한테 대다더니 콩트발이 사진들이 이 콩이 가랑이 나게 롱요 담메다 딱게 당음에 가리고나 들고 가도들이 롱로고요. 들이 쪼들이 세롱 나게 롱 상롱제 이섬을 롱서요에 얘는 나게 롱제 상hin기리 상hin기용이 받쳐진 나게 롱도 톱도고요리 이 서책을 두고 롱제들이 다시 유바라고요. 니게요리 됐다그래.
So today we're starting the center in Vietnam is starting to host the Mani Drupche and the Mani retreat. And that is actually an incredible fortune because during degenerate times such as these, when there is so much suffering, really only the Dharma will be of any benefit. And then beings are born and die constantly like a wheel, a constantly turning wheel. And even though we take birth and we die, the mind, Buddha nature, can never die. When one passes to the next life, then either one attains enlightenment or one goes to wander in the 3 lower realms or anywhere else in the 6 realms of samsara. But one will just continue to go on wandering, because the mind transcends birth and death. It doesn't die. And therefore, we always need the Holy Dharma. And the essence of the Holy Dharma is love and compassion, which is like warmth or heat. And what is the essence of love and compassion, or the embodiment? The embodiment of love and compassion is the Noble Chenrezig. So today we are starting a Chenrezig retreat, which is an incredible fortune. So in the beginning, first I will give a reading transmission of the daily practice. And so generally, I don't actually remember whether or not I have all these smaller transmissions. And in general, it is said that one should have the lineage, should pass on the lineage. However, also in the past, the Jigong Yelong Pachung Rinpoche, who was the holder of the Jigong Kagyu lineage, the transmission and all the empowerments and teachings of this lineage, and he said to me that whatever transmission I have, whatever the lineage I have, I give it all to you, and you must uphold it. And that was his instruction to me. And he really is like a Buddha appearing in this world. And so therefore, because it was his direct instruction, therefore I don't really often analyze too much whether or not I have each and every transmission. And also in terms of transmission, there are different aspects. There is an outer, inner, and a secret aspect to a transmission. And the inner transmission is love and compassion. And therefore, if you have love and compassion, then you also, in a way, have received that transmission. The outer transmission is the reading transmission that, in order for the sake of sustaining the actual lineage. And then what is the secret transmission? So we call that the Buddha nature that we all possess. And Buddha nature is primordially the Buddha. The Buddha himself had said, all beings are actually Buddhas. So this Buddha nature is like a continuum that we all possess, like a transmission or a continuum. And its nature is emptiness. And what must happen is that we must bring compassion into this emptiness. So it becomes an emptiness that has compassion at its core. And so if Buddha nature encounters love and compassion, or if emptiness encounters love and compassion, self-grasping will disappear, and we become closer to enlightenment. For as long as there is self-grasping, we will not be able to truly see the nature of the mind. So as the secret transmission, we have to recognize that it is our fundamental nature, our Buddha nature. Also, we spoke about that during the recent teachings on the fivefold path of Mahamudra prayer. And also in that context, I referenced a song, a Milarepa song, as translated by Khenpo Tsurtum Gyamtso. And so in there, it said that within the boundless palace of the three realms of the self-born, 3 realms of existence, dwells the essence of the Buddhas, or the Buddha nature. So the explanation on this is actually very important. Also, before we practice a deity, we must recognize that we are the deity on the basis of Buddha nature. So we already have that. But what do I not have? What I'm lacking in is love and compassion. And when there's no more clinging to a self, then one will see the nature of the mind. But for as long as there is a grasping at a self, you cannot see the nature of the mind, because it is just like the sky is obscured by clouds, so you can't see the sky. And so now I'm going to give the transmission, a reading transmission, which actually has been printed in quite large letters, because it's very difficult for me to see. Nowadays, actually, it's a little bit difficult for me to give reading transmissions, but still, I will do my best to give this transmission.
당보 추진도 잡도서 당보 잡생문도 송래 남모 라마 적설였던 최송라 사적벌도 나지 잡선체 로콘 코르와 등의 장소래 로선 판초 제도 대동사 실리케를 요 제주기에서 진짜 소바바주다 자와다만 소바바주다 왕 아지 추군 동벌 양 돈이 낭레라르 뭐 용절다니 바바진에서 자체 사업에 샤미 도저요 그도가 저 이제 좀 능지냐 저좀 답을 찾아서 거라 찾아서 타니 생각 배마가 와나 다다는 시는 진비진 저 다베지 전에 좀 가면 생래 오주지 시바 왕하게 공등가 이쪽으로 아야 로고 저래 로고 저래 또 상가다 사바라 말에 사와 분점 따시 자에서 와 김교 저 빠르게 저도 그냥 이게 le deux pas y a beaucoup de choses de béto par j'ai béto l'anza on ma ho dans ye mi tem wang la bon wang he bon wang ge chu ko gang xian ko gang xian zhe me zuo da che la jin jie lin这不是我们直接到网上让结果我们直接到网上让灯，我们把把灯不办对方阿罗根，我们把阿根把灯不办对方阿罗根跟的那个的。sabda pati sayo so choji maga kudo kora to haji kora ni tokje chi je rola de kire de sansa to kire de lo sansa do kire de lo sansa de lam 저제 근장하라도 라냐 오제 상제 세진 주 독지 성합 옹어들제 넘버 꼭대 달라 선발 저시 뭐 삼배이제 마영발 오만 배면 홍중조 중조 방랑 하다 와서 토구체외 제2지 대방 초 생정 먹나 양상 잡제 양상 잡제 양상 잡제 탄삼 유랑 탐랑이 장 오저스템 대양 멍미앙 전에야 좀 좋아져 봤나 라야라니 바꿔거려 좀 다들 바꿔군데래서 개반데 다당 조금씩 요미에다가 조금씩 개반에다가 이제 줄라요 배 조금 상생 바꿔송 톡상 로제소 지당 인호모 뭐와 뭐랑 소자 사선 주고 동의는 접사 시간당 라진 거는 배배 동의 셔티게 농촌에 정보이 기본 롤 페인당 내가 저저 사바만가 기반에 되다 얘네들 원하는 동안이면 배에 살라고 마이고 이제 엄베서 사서 소마야만 빨아야 베서 사서 되는 거 특차 디도 메바마서도 가서도 소 자메바마 서도 카서도 살베바마 소보지메마 안나도 메바마 소바들 메라이다 소바까마서 소바까마 서자메드담 히아걸로 홍하하하호 마음에 사와 따탄가 땀 메다마마 소메 사도아 이자데 이게 대사 다 용이는데 이게 노르사 영달 거의 유리에서 되면데 거기 얘기하자.
As Rinpoche said on the very last page, the 100-syllable mantra, there seems to be a little mistake, so you want to revise that. Just the way it comes out, it doesn't seem to be quite right.
gencher si ba kangri lorti sri da rangi da sem de chi ni bo yin chang mu ja lower te me de som lower te me si lower te ma ngao cha ni ngao ja ba ni lu nga yi sem cha ni te ro ro do so si de ni jim de ke chu sam ran so yi so ni ni mo chok kang che ji ran so de she che ro yo lo de 가세유와 촉쟁 니상스로 성내하는 대식주보다 졸라줘야 요말 대식주보다 도지 정지 그 사지가 제음비 대대가 좀 다야요 그래 벨 쳐라 그리고서 첫당마들 가사가 처처를 그저 첫독사로 송 첫독과 차로 이렇게 나 첫들들이 똑같 차야 요말 양뜻상마도 땅마에서 지르게 서고요 베티다 세 대식도 뭐 요니 정대 들이 유몽적으로 듣고요 말이 대외들이 생기 속에 양을 나눠들이 사지 토야요 봐 동대리 대리들이 사다다 대 속하고 사지는 지인을 대대가 좀 답대다와 챕터 타라 가와보라 더 타서는 더 답대 낭요래 대대 낭매들 양당 양들 양들 그래 코가 토마미 바나 따버더니 먹이에 박차디 반참매바 카바바든지 전박고요래 기회 박차디 하던 용용을 기회 박차가리 삼바다 민지 대지를 디발이 시합 중요한 거래 삼바다 민지를 때리 로버도 아파다서는 들이지를 시합을 차대서 되게 뭐지 들이다들 sakshi dokshi mengma wada yunjadiri nelok to sana kubakolo me son kutilong jiram jange tata sakshi dokshi ma boshi nelok shibara sem tangma te son koyore tevel te tangma yungji chede tiri da tada tiri dotab de cheyere tiri dotab tamje la tiri koko ya jata nga daya jata tiri sembu tenge de gongya tengteng sumde tere 대선도 가래 좀 샘 내게 어디 싸면서 오고요래 소리가 되요래 다다 요 베티 싸면서 탑들 이유는 더 다른 것도 봐 삼토 다다 이틀린 거 되게 같이 이유는 것도 고요 같이 양은 것도 고요래 박차 삼토 때문에 착해요래 제일 좀 탑도 좀 말해
So we have the daily practice, the sadhana of Refuge, and so as we have said, everyone possesses Buddha nature. So what's the meaning of the sadhana, the daily practice? Or why do we do that? It's because we all possess Buddha nature. However, as the Buddha had said, that nature is obscured by adventitious stains, and that adventitious stain is the grasping at a self. Because we think that there is an I, a me, we create body, speech, and mind. And then we take birth anywhere in the 6 realms of samsara, depending on our karma. It is said that cause and effect, karma cause and effect, is the natural manifestation of one's moment-to-moment thoughts. So depending on which of the afflictive emotions is predominant, one takes birth as the natural manifestation of that affliction. However, no matter how strong these afflictions may be, even if we wander in the 3 lower realms, Buddha nature will never become spoiled. It is unchanging, and therefore it is given the name Vajradhara, the Buddha Vajradhara. It is because we possess the nature of awakening that we can purify all these obscurations. So the mind is just like clean water. But then when we take this water all over the place, and sometimes to a dirty place, then the water will become polluted. But still, the essence of that water can never become actually touched by it. It still is water as essentially. For example, scientists nowadays know how to purify water. So then it is pure water again. And so similarly, it is because we possess Buddha nature that the 6 afflictive emotions cannot actually defile Buddha nature. So it's just a temporary veil or an obscuration. But any sentient being, everyone, if they practice, can attain enlightenment. And that is what the Buddha had realized. The Buddha saw that whoever can understand that, they attain enlightenment. And so it is for that sake that a sadhana practice exists. And the sadhana practices, the different methods of accomplishment are given depending on the lower, middling, and less mental, or the higher mental capacities of practitioners. So the practice is the same, but it just depends how quickly we will purify our obscurations. So for some, it will take longer than for others. And so it will take time because since beginningless time in samsara, we have mostly accumulated negativity, negative karma, negative karmic habitual patterns, which we allow to arise in our mind continuously, just like snowflakes falling down. And our imprints of virtue are very few. What is the imprint of virtue? It is the thoughts or the state of mind that is love and compassion. If we have love and compassion, we will at least have some wisdom. So the nature of mind is only temporarily obscured. And these temporary obscurations become purified through love and compassion. And through love and compassion, then wisdom arises and we realize Buddha nature. And so it is given many different names, for example, Mahamudra or Dzogchen Madhyamaka. But in brief, the omniscient Longchen Rabcham had said, when you realize the nature of the mind, there is no higher learning than that. So everyone has that mind. We just need to purify that mind. So the sadhana or the method of accomplishment exists as a way for us to purify our temporary defilements. And that is why in any sadhana you find a visualization for the physical obscurations. For the speech we recite mantra, and with the mind we sustain samadhi. These three are also called the three samadhis. But most importantly, we need to purify Buddha nature. We need to remove these defilements, obscuring it. And once they are removed, everyone possesses the same Buddha nature. So this is a method to purify the mind of these obscurations. And when accomplishment is achieved depends on how thick or thin our obscurations are. So for some practitioners, they need to practice for a long time, and then others can purify them in a much shorter time. So it depends on like how many obscurations, how thick are the layers of their obscurations. But so in any case, this is the purpose of a sadhana or a method of accomplishment.
그래서 토마토다 나와 사제반이 개발 강의들이 나버는 초록 방면들이 사는 뭐 잠비체 송선이 잡수 좋아당 사족의 생지와 잠도의 생지 네 사제 제발에 네 잡수 가서 좀들이 나와 세 상제들이 줘서 잡수 고쳐서는 이제 네 잡 책을 라마지 그리다가 라마를 사지 건드지 농가 강건이 촉성건지 짝성건지 제일 라마다 제지 좀 마고선 거요 잠밑에 대서 하고 저기 데레들이 라마를 건드지 라마를 티니더니 고초선 용티 하고선 라마를 거기 지속답시 톡상지 라마를 고초선 창화 되듯이 야 들이 라마를 들이 나가 값들이 그 라마 송이다 톡하로지 그래서 자성을 때도 참고를 이 다통들을 값들이다 그것도 사반에 송어들이 축구로 것도 som데 서 적도 통하고 적고 들이 송송들이 롱 용지 답치 용지상 저송 특파를 맡은 사람은 어디 송을 되는 연구를 송롱 거지 들이 톡 주게 되지 톡 주게 되지 그 머리 다 심장은 대신 뭐 가요 대신 뭐 소소를 요래 소소가 선 대신 뭐니 마그는 오 도마니들이 단이 맞지도 없고 그러더나 네 파바르나 신 라그 심장마 뒤 라그 저서 남저가 같이 대신 뭐랑 요래 이문나다는 차롱도가 차대요래 잠시다는 차롱도가 차대래 대 잠도 따로 쇼는 차롱도 쇼는 잠도 또 때로 상제고 막 톱송지 그렇지 쇼벌을 드리다 레저 드바제 시에그 드바제 담보래 시도 드바데 내로 사지 하마고 들이 바드 요드들이 유목지들이 레사 들이 파차 루마지가 들이사 다 차롱 차송도 오늘 신 저도 차롱 차송데 때 철쇼를 하려지 차롱 차지 나인이 차송 그때 파쇼 그렇게다 다다 오늘 추들이 삼지리 능지리 조르들이 차롱 쇼거래 세부 차롱데 나리 세 차롱 됐다면서 세 차롱데 난 차롱데 나지 나오는 분들이 대지 말들이 난 차롱데 나니 뭐라들이 사바는 이제 세부 바지야 들이 세 적나만 나오는 분들이 들이 사역하고 들이 대발이 거다 송이 말 송들이 이게 좀 마송 들이 답지 정도지 정도 송번이더니 루모치 셈피지 나오지 그 많은 사지에서 많은 송지 어따 도와를 보지 가는 랍시그만 없이 같이 뛰어 올라고요 말이 산지 토고나들이 파실 토고들이 토고 파실 토고들이 로아를 토고 유목 토고지 뭐 파실 토고래 델라고 토바를 비에다 샤데 라지 송차를 엄마는 뱀이 황제들이 유목 토고 문지네 델들이 파실 토고들이 장기요래 때 장장들이 유목 토고 메송나 그리지 차롱도 쇼는 거예요. 다만 시랍다니 jel지네. 이 차롱 저 잡소를 탐바대서 사제들. 이 소소 산지 이제 영은 요새 대이치 대적이 치고요래. 그래서 잡도들. 그 잡도를 들이 잡도 부서래야 돼. 어떤가 나 잡도 나 차롱 잡도 로고. 로사서래. 어따 취도 상문제 잡. 다통 제거들 랑 차롱도 같이 대셔는 잡소를 탐소. 그래서 레이서는 또 이제는 대신 못 되는지 그래서 남녀선이 바탕지에 유목적인 보이사 그리고 팔신적 들어서 왔더니 나란 주바 남바들은 용만이 주바라서 봤대 삼치 그 현고마들이 주바 현고마들이 팔신적 들어라서 봐 그래서 돈나 때문에 생 임피기 차례들이 선거에 대신은 돈나 생도 임피고 얻어 세분 차롱 시절 이비로도 거요. 이비로는 사바 세미우나. 근데 이제는 센들로 잡고 요래. 배들이 다 세지. 차롱은 됐다 잡을게. 동네에서 다다 마통 됐다 잡고 됐다 속이 잡아도 미기 잡아도 미기 잡고 요만이 미기 샘기 잡고 요래. 샘는 가야기 잡고 샘이 시다기 잡고 요래. 차도를 잡고 요래. 대가리 되게 나래서 마치 보고 나야 보지 되고 이가 있었노. 그때 무슨 뭐 토를 사요야 돼. 뭐 좋은데 하고는 다 대시가 탑서 못하네. 그 수야는 몇좀 제사 본거는 또 탑탑지 대장선이나 강도 되게 나 하고 따와서 그요. 이는 게임을 때 남이 제고 돈다 찍바래. 락도 올라가지고 요는 리바 찍바래. 룽아 있으면 더 장제들이
So first, what is so unique about the Buddhist teachings? Even though there are many different religions in the world, is that the difference between the Buddhist religion and non-Buddhist religions is the refuge. So in Buddhism, the Buddha gave us the refuge and the mind generation of Bodhichitta. So for the refuge, first we apprehend the outer refuge, the three jewels. So we take refuge in the Buddha and so on. And then also there is the guru who represents the three jewels. So we should recognize that or see the guru as an embodiment of the three jewels. And so that is now from a sutra perspective, there's the three jewels. From the tantric perspective, the sources of refuge are also the three roots. And There are also many commentaries on that, so you all have already some understanding with regard to that. And so basically through the Guru, in brief, through the Guru we must understand the qualities of the three jewels. So therefore, first on the outer level, we see the Guru's body as the Sangha, the speech as the Dharma, and the mind as the Buddha. We always mention that too. And then from the tantric perspective, the three roots are the Lama, Yidam, and Dakini. And so here, the Guru's body is the Lama, the speech is the Yidam, and the mind is the Dakini. And then also from the resultant, ultimate perspective, the Guru represents the three kayas, the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya, which is actually also included in the refuge of the new preliminary practices. And so, first on the outer level, the body, the form that we see, is the Nirmanakaya. The speech of that Guru is the Sambhogakaya, because it is through the Guru's instructions that we learn about the qualities of the Holy Dharma, the qualities of the Yidam, the qualities of the bhumis and the paths. All of this understanding arises through the Guru's speech. And so therefore the speech is Sambhogakaya, similar to the Yidam. And then the mind is the Dharmakaya, because the mind also is Buddha nature. And so this mind, where is that mind? Actually, you also have this mind. You also possess the same Buddha nature. In the tantric teachings, in the Vajrakilaya teaching, for example, in the sadhana, it says that I appear as I am the uncontrived primordial form, a primordially complete form. So it is, Kilaya is your true nature, and that is because of your inner quality, because you possess Buddha nature. So you have that nature. It's just that temporarily it is like water having frozen into ice, so like ice floating on the ocean. But whenever the ice melts, it will merge to become one with the ocean. And that is what we call attaining enlightenment. So first we need to undo the karmic obscurations that we have amassed. So we basically speak about 4 kinds of obscurations that obscure our mind. The first one is the subtle obscuration or the cognitive obscuration that prevents us from seeing our true nature. So we are unable to see that our true nature is Buddha. Then second arises then the obscuration of the afflictive emotions. A third, that leads to the obscuration of karmas. And fourth, that leads to the formation of karmic imprints, that is, patterns. So it is because of these 4 obscurations that the mind has become like an ice block, even though it is water. So what can we do to melt this ice block? We need to cultivate love and compassion, because what this ice block essentially is, it is a dualistic perception of self and other. It is basically self-grasping. And that is why in brief we say the Dharma really is love and compassion. So compassion is the warmth that melts this ice block. The ice of the mind is the perception of a self. And an example of that is the external ice that we see. But inside it is self-clinging. And the inner ice is melted only through the 4 immeasurables, especially love and compassion. And on the basis of that, we then eliminate the physical obscurations by visualizing the form of the Yidam and then reciting the syllables, the mantra syllables of the deity's mantra to purify our speech. And so, actually in the past, when Vajradhara Druvang Rinpoche, when he was here, I asked him, many people asked him also give an instruction on the nature of the mind. And Druvang Rinpoche All he said is the mani mantra is the Buddha. The mani is the Buddha. And that's all he said. And so that's why some people actually said that he doesn't know how to teach anything. But actually that's not true at all, because that is really the essence. That is so true. If you want to attain enlightenment, you need to eliminate the 6 afflictive emotions. An antidote to the 6 afflictive emotions are the 6 paramitas. The 6 paramitas, in essence, are the 6 syllables of the Mani mantra. And also a representation of the 6 Buddhas appearing in the 6 realms of samsara. So first, we need to recognize the afflictive emotions and then purify them through the 6 paramitas. And these 6 afflictive emotions have been eliminated, then the ice has melted, really through love and compassion and through wisdom, and has melted into one with the ocean water. So the first thing that you need to understand is that you yourself possess Buddha nature. It's very important that you really trust in your true nature. And then you take refuge. And so first you think, I am taking refuge because I need to melt this ice block. But then, so what does it actually entail to melt the ice block? You melt the ice block through love and compassion. So love and compassion is your true protection. So first recognize Buddha nature and then apply the path, the antidote to the 6 afflictive emotions. All the paths are an antidote to the 6 afflictive emotions. For example, the practice of the 6 paramitas, which is really embodied by the Mani mantra. And that is also the purpose of doing any of the other practices contained in the sadhana, such as making offerings of the 5 sense pleasures and so forth. And when you make offerings, then it becomes an offering to the higher beings, and it becomes an act of generosity towards sentient beings. And so in this way you practice the 6 paramitas. But in essence, in brief, it all comes down to one thing, and that is the altruistic mind. That is what will melt the ice block. Or in other words, it is immeasurable love and compassion. If you have just that, then finally your mind will become more relaxed. So the outer eyes, an example of the outer or external eyes, is, for example, all the suffering we can witness now in the world. There's wars going on. So who is fighting a war? You might think that it's a person, that person is making war. But actually it's not really the person, it's the mind. And so what in the mind causes war? It is our anger, the hatred, our jealousy. It is those afflictions that are really fighting the war. And it all begins with self-clinging, thinking that I need to be big, I need to be powerful, and I must eliminate others in order for myself to become powerful. So this is what causes all other afflictive emotions, which then cause war. So therefore, what's important is that we recognize the fault of the afflictive emotion, and also the antidote to those afflictive emotions, because in the end we all have them. We have the same emotions of anger and jealousy and so on. And so any sadhana practice is a method to purify the mind in this way. So by first visualizing the form of the deity, reciting a single mantra, and sustaining a state of samadhi. That is really the essence of any sadhana practice. Whatever practice you do really has the same meaning. So it is these 3 steps whereby we purify the obscurations of our body, speech, and mind.
다디네 돈이 레셈니 차대요래 레셈니 자다 삼년은 로로 참 레셈니 제가 강해지 오 제도 공대사지 제름시가 람 제름을 뛰니 제가 조름지 람 제름을 거는 따다다 나나나 가서 잡을 등을 가서 깍들이 마 가지 팅을 남다 끼네들 라스 띠토발 끼네들 띠시는 그 가지는 끼네들 대바데 예미바 띠토바데 차나 대지 좀탈 끼네들 띠디 가르데 나데 요말에 나메바 차데 끼네들 나데 끼네들 저데리 대외로더니 나로 박차데 마보사토고 요말에 대지 깨름지나 거치도 때 조름지나 딘족탈 때 끼네들 거자 동반이 차데 조름지 이렇게도 공대사 성태리.
So first, you have understood that the nature of the 6 realms of samsara is like it's an ocean of suffering. And then, in brief, you have recognized that how can I become free from suffering? To become free from suffering, I must become free from self-grasping. The root of all suffering is self-grasping. And what we call this self is really our body and our speech, or body and mind. So anyone in the 6 realms of samsara identify with that, the body and the mind. And so in the beginning it says, in our sadhana, it says practice the meditation and recitation of the generation and completion stages. So the generation stage is the path, and the completion stage is the result. So normally we always think of me, in any kind of moment. This is mine, something related to me. So instead of that, whenever this I arises, this me arises, instantly make it a habit to remember Chenrezig instead. So that eventually all you think of is Chenrezig, and no more me. And if you always think in this way, then you will become indivisible from Chenrezig. In the end, there's only Chenrezig in the mind. And when Chenrezig is in the mind, then no self is in the mind. Then the self has transformed into Chenrezig. So this is how we practice. We begin the practice of with this understanding, the practice of the generation stage. So in the generation stage, we visualize, we remember the deity's form. And then in the end, when we come to the completion stage, we recognize that all appearance is empty. And then we rest in this clear state. So in the beginning, it says now engage in the practice of generation and completion stages. And so for the generation stage or the visualization, you just visualize according to the sadhana. And if you have time, then practice it in great detail, each step. Or if you don't have so much time, just always think that I am Chenrezig. Always remember Chenrezig. And you can visualize that from the Chenrezig's 3 places. The forehead, at the forehead is white Om, at the throat red A, and at the heart blue Hung. From these 3 syllables at the 3 places, white, red, and blue light radiate, and then as they radiate out, they touch upon all the Buddhas abiding in space, and that is their actual mind, because the Buddhas, these light rays, that touch upon Buddhas because Buddhas pervade all of space. Their true nature is Dharmakaya, and Dharmakaya pervades all of space. So the moment the light rays radiate out, they touch upon that. So just visualize these 3 syllables, Oma Hung, and think that these light rays of your wisdom mind radiate out, and then touch upon all the Buddhas in the form of Chandresic, who then descend down as forms of Chandresic and seed syllables of Oma and Hung and so forth. And then think that descending down, like rain falling down, they dissolve into you and all other sentient beings. So that would be a concise way of practicing the generation stage.
이제 하고 그래. 지종 나한테 하고 그래. 지종 생고만을 저쪽한테 대봐. 당도 있었던 대봐. 당을 대봐 고쳐 용팀심에 용팀 삼심을 잡아래스. 너버 대봐 라진 상체 동일 조도가 대봐. 이치지 대봐들은 sem 나한테 시작하는 도와도 참아 사제래스. semkong dajin yidi shakso saje re te ishi te pa sablo tini ta ote kochole sem te pa chatam chena ote ta chere jijin te semjin ni te pa jin ti semna semjin ni je chere semkomar te pa chero semomar ni je chere semkomar te pa ma chero semomar ni je chere ma te ote chere te ojer kadi na ote te lang semge te pa da ni je ra le ware ultima to yo mari te lang ta la tri te mine tata nang jang gore te uti top system nang ta gore de.
So what you should understand about that light that radiates from you, the intensity of this light, how much light radiates, actually depends mainly on yourself. It mainly depends on, first of all, how much faith or devotion you have to the higher beings. So it is actually the light rays of faith and devotion. And we have 3 kinds of faith. First, there is the clear faith, which means you understand the qualities of the 3 jewels. So you know that the 3 jewels are immeasurable. Then secondly, there is the longing faith. You long for the liberation from suffering for others and yourself. And then there is the trusting faith. You trust that when self-grasping diminishes, all beings in the 6 realms are actually Buddhas. You trust that when there is no more dualistic grasping, all beings are Buddhas. So the light rays are the light rays of these 3 kinds of faith. And the stronger your faith, the stronger will be the light. And also, in a person who possesses faith, compassion arises. So therefore, in other words, if you lack faith, then also in higher beings, then also compassion to lower beings will not arise. So the light rays, therefore, is something that you can just see for yourself. The strength of the light rays depends on your faith and also the strength of your compassion. And there is no other light rays aside from that. And so in that you need to train, and then you must see for yourself how strong are the rays of your light.
차그럼 차지고 차그럼 되더니 이게 싸 홍방오 되요래 다 되는 나한테 식 차그럼 때문에 잡아 차오로 바오로들이 나한테 째서 세우는 차그럼도 철을 줘네 다 홍방오도 재미저리 재미 이제 그러다 사바 재미기 쳐버려 근데 주로 세는 사바 재미도 째오나 이게 가라지 그 제거 이제 매바 쫄람 탑제 째오면 그들이 다 차오로도 쇼요 삼바데 이제 주도 줄을 째서 다 차그럼도 주도 쇼요 때 하고는 당가지 삼바데 니게 세용이 쳐버렸지. 다디니 못해래. 다니 예미 저데. 이 차로 자다셔서 사제 제바요면 랑 대식이 뭐요래. 차로데 처리 대다 하고 그래야 돼.
After that, there is a praise. And so here you should reflect that the Dharmakaya of Buddhas, the Dharmakaya pervades all of space. Wherever there is space, Dharmakaya pervades. And therefore, even though partially you are still frozen like an ice block, a part of you always pervades that too through your Buddha nature, the space-like nature of the Dharmakaya. So then there are the four syllables Tsa Hung Bam Ho. And so here then think that, so when self-grasping has collapsed, for example, when the ice is touched by some heat, it will melt somewhat. And then your true nature reveals itself. And so most important, the heat that melts the ice is the four immeasurables. And of the four immeasurables, the most important one is immeasurable love. If immeasurable love arises in your mind, then compassion will just naturally follow it in all of your activities. And then in this way, if you always sustain a state of love and compassion, then the ice will melt. So in fact, an ongoing state of love and compassion is a sign of melting, or having melted the ice block. So then here you understand, love and compassion is what's most important. Love and compassion, these are the antidotes to self-grasping. And when I melt my ice block, then there is no difference between me and the Buddhas, because my true nature is Buddha nature. So you need to understand that ice is water. What's most important is what's called the nail of samadhi. And so the samadhi here is the visualization, where the main point of focus is where you visualize a white three-syllable at the heart, standing upon a moon disk, which is about the size of a fingernail. So on a small moon disk, there is a very bright, brilliant white three-syllable encircled by the 6-syllable Mani mantra and the Om Mani Padme Hum. And so the purpose of visualizing the mantra garland single-pointedly is so that the mind does not become distracted outwardly, so that the mind does not become carried away by other thoughts. So first you visualize the mantra garland around the seed syllable. And when that becomes clear, that is called the approach stage. Then you begin to circulate it slowly, so it begins to rotate. And then it accelerates, and that is the close approach. And then next, once it spins, it turns very fast. Then from that spinning, light rays emanate and are gathered back. That is called the accomplishment. And then finally, the great accomplishment is that where you realize that all sentient beings possess this nature, possess Buddha nature, which temporarily is like a block of ice due to self-grasping. But I have love and compassion, which is like the sun. Now I have melted all of their ice blocks. And once it is melted, their true nature is the same. It is Buddha nature. So this is the part that then you need to practice, habituate for a long time. And in the end, you come to the ultimate view, which is where you realize that self and other are actually inseparable, are actually one. And so then that is called the state of Mahamudra. And then you rest within that state single-pointedly. So again, the visualization of the mantra garland is a method for the mind to abide single-pointedly. So once you have visualized it, then slowly it begins to turn, and then it accelerates. So then you come to first there's the approach, then it accelerates, that's the close approach, and then it turns so fast that you can no longer perceive it visually. So you can't see it anymore, you can just hear the sound. So we always mention that, so we won't, there's no need to go into much in depth on that today. But so basically it is just like the wheel of, not a wing of a jet, an airplane. And so when it begins to turn, when that engine begins to turn really fast, then all there is the sound, like a humming sound. So in a similar way, you no longer see the mantra, it turns so fast, but it gives off this humming mantra sound of the Mani mantra. And so then think that all sentient beings actually have that. They are within this wheel. In a way, everything is a wheel. So first of all, the wheel is within you. And then, for example, we spin a prayer wheel. And everything in this world, actually, you can see is turning in a way. There's this movement. So we are in the midst of a wheel. And then we have cars, and we have trains, and airplanes, and everything that's moving is because of wheels. So everything is a wheel. We are in the midst of a wheel. So anyways, then think that as these light rays radiate out, they melt these light rays of love, then melt the ice block of all of sentient beings. And then all sentient beings have become like the ocean water or like space. And then you rest in a state of Mahamudra. And then also in all your activities, whoever you see, practice a pure perception. There are no self and no other. So see beings as the deity, as they really are, and inseparable from yourself. So when we speak about accomplishing a deity, what does it actually mean to accomplish a deity? It means that whenever you have realized the non-dual nature of the mind, that a mind is one with, there's no other beings, that's when you have accomplished the deity. The deity accomplishment does not mean that you see the deity directly or that you hear the deity say something to you and so on. These are just like some arisings of the path, but these are no signs of accomplishing the deity. So the accomplishment of deity occurs when you realize Mahamudra. And because that is the ultimate accomplishment, any single deity that you practice accomplishes all the other deities, because all the wisdom beings are one and the same. They are not two, they're not separate. So the most important visualization, again, is to visualize the white Shri syllable surrounded by the mantra garland. And do that in all your daily activities when you go around. Think that all sounds are the Mani mantra and all forms are intrinsic. And that's actually how things really are. That's their true nature, because all of these beings that you see, they all possess Buddha nature because they all possess a mind. So when you go around in your day-to-day activities, this is how you should train the mind in a pure perception. And so this is how you actually properly practice the Vajrayana. So then next our offerings, and during the offerings the light rays radiate and then make offerings to all the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And then also as our actual material offerings, you might have set up some flowers and fruits and so on, the actually arranged offerings. But then also at the same time, if you're practicing together, you should think that all the other disciples and everyone really is Chandresic, because we all possess Buddha nature. And we only are obscured temporarily. And then due to this temporary obscuration, we perceive others as others. And so when we speak about this trusting faith, the real trusting faith is when you trust that all sentient beings possess Buddha nature, the same Buddha nature. No matter where they are in the 6 realms, in the lower realms and so on, they all possess Buddha nature. And they are all only temporarily obscured. Now, for example, now there is this war in the world. But when there is a war, again, who fights a war? It is really the afflictive emotion. It is hatred and anger. So recognize that these afflictive emotions are the actual cause of suffering. And therefore, what is a method to pacify this cause of suffering? It is loving compassion. So even though you possess Buddha nature, our love and compassion generally is very limited. But when that arises, when just the slightest love and compassion arises, that actually becomes the best offering, the supreme offering to all the Buddhas. So when we say the light rays make offerings to the Buddhas, the supreme way of pleasing the Buddhas is to cultivate love and compassion. And so then the light rays gather back the compassionate blessings of the Buddhas, which then dissolve in a 5-colored light in the form of nectar. So it means that when bodhicitta arises, then the afflicted mind of the 5 afflictive emotions begins to transform. We call that mature or ripen, and it matures into the 5 wisdoms. It's important to understand how the mind transforms, how the mind matures. And also, normally we have received many different teachings on the nature of the mind, the Mahamudra and so on. And so one thing we always mention is that, for example, a person who knows how to meditate, but even if strong anger arises for them, they know how to meditate, so they instantly see the anger. They can see the affliction arising. And by seeing what arises, actually the affliction is already gone. It is said that a sign of meditation is an absence of afflictions. So then there is no more anger. And then in an instant it dissolves, and then that person is able to laugh. So and it's the same with all the other afflictions and all the other suffering that we experience. So somebody who knows how to meditate with these afflictions, a practitioner, will not see them as so solid. They will see them as an illusion, just like a dream, but will not fixate so much on that there's a real suffering, there's a real problem. But actually, they can see the afflictive emotions as what they really are, because what they really are is the arising of primordial wisdom. But that's only something one can understand if one actually has gained experience in that. If one has not attained, if one hasn't experienced that, and we just say that, oh, the afflictions are wisdom, and the person won't understand that. And it's just like, basically, if they eat poison, they will still get sick. So we need to understand and transform, and then we know what these afflictions actually really are. And it is from this knowledge that the trusting faith arises. So it's actually the knowledge of your true nature, your Buddha nature. You know that you already have this nature. You have no doubt about that. It just needs to mature. It needs to mature into primordial wisdom. And when it matures, then there will be no more ordinary afflictive emotions. And that can happen in any moment. And that is the nature of all sentient beings. And therefore, if there's somebody who understands that, who has experienced that, they will not see all these sentient beings as real. Everything is more like an illusion to them. And the negativity arising around us is seen as the natural manifestation, like a projection of the afflictive emotions. It is just like a bad dream, like a nightmare, but it's not reality. So the path, or like on the basis, or the cause, is the generation stage, and the result is the completion stage. So ultimately, when we come to the completion stage is the practice of Mahamudra, or to rest in the space like Dharmakaya. So abiding within this state, sustaining this state, is called the fruition, is the completion stage. And it is here where we then accomplish the nature of the deity. So again, the nature of the deity is that state of mind that is unafflicted. So we have said that a sign of meditation, of practice, is an absence of afflictive emotions. And that is something you can only see for yourself, whether this is the case for you or not. It is nothing someone else can tell you. So then, if you eliminate your own afflictive emotions, then you will be able to also help others eliminate their afflictions. If you have not yet eliminated your own afflictions, you can't really help others eliminate theirs. Of course, love and compassion will still be of great benefit, of course. So, in any case, this is the practice, the meditation, and the recitation. And this is really basically how you practice any deity. In any sadhana practice, you practice the generation stage as the path, and the completion stage as the result, which is the sustaining state of Mahamudra, or seeing your true nature. So this is the practice of the generation and completion stages.
그래서 대배중 족방송에 네 대배중도 하자 개청을 해서다 나 양따가 때문에 로고요리 마보요리 이 당시에는 되니 로만냠되나 지는 양따들이 다치마이 총함이 족발마이 버바위 루밀라서 바체미 되니 연도이나 양바면서 너는 하 가래는 조고도나 가래도나 되니 연도이나 양바면서 들이 여기 잡아가들 변을 양살이 되라서 봐 연주이나 양반면이죠. 그래서 샵라 총으로 되기를 봐요 저런 데도지 인하게지 제가 저러나 대답지 많이 받치고 너는 양양들이 양쪽과 직장으로도 그래 대송을 요래 인하 라양들이 답이랑 땅을 되는데 한장 비용 쳐버리 되는 정보도 속진성이 탐색 고토고 요래 그냥 가셔지 동천을 땅 조금도 땅 초라들어가는 인체비 받대 나 대형제 땅잖아 대표용 전부요래.
And then also it says that it's important to recite the mantra flawlessly, perfectly announced, and in perfect tune. And so it is said that so the mantra, there's many different things to pay attention to when reciting the mantra. But so when you're together, when you're practicing together as a group of disciples, and we are chanting the mantra in a melody, and then it's important that you continue with, you practice in that melody. Generally, it is said that it should not be too strongly announced, and also should not be too loosely announced, and it should not be too loud, not be too quiet, not be too fast, not be too slow. But then what's most important is that it says the branches or the branches or limbs of each syllable must not decline or be degenerated. And so what that means is that so you recite the mantra in whichever way the group recites it. If it's quick, and so on. Yeah. But what's most important is that that the mantra syllables are pronounced without deterioration. That is exactly the way it's supposed to be pronounced. So for example, if you have a diacritical mark, which in Tibetan we call, for example, the achung, which basically elongates the sound, so it makes it bayo instead of not bayo, but it makes a long ah sound. When you see this diacritical mark, then you should also pronounce it exactly like that. And that's considered to be extremely important. And then aside from that, you follow the chanting of the group in terms of the melody that is chanted and so on. And also what's actually very beneficial is to have a recording of that mantra, the chanted mantra, playing on the loop, so you always hear the mantra. And if that always plays, it benefits many beings with a body and without a body, and those who are alive and those who have deceased. It also depends on your surroundings. Sometimes it is not allowed to play louder music in a city when there's many people around. So then you adjust them to that. But if it is okay and if you're by yourself, so generally speaking, it is very beneficial to play the sound of a mantra on the loop.
갈 하자 채워서지 저런 그 종이 라리아라니 파포크사를 상상 송도 네 냠니 탐체 이거 저런 이거 되니 이래서 그 람스 뒤고 저기 이 강에 진이 거기서 일을 세지 얘네들 람스 뒤고 꿈도 다 자사 뒤고 말이 얘네들 일을 뒤네 람이 람 가래 이 람스 쪼람 탐체를 뒤네 제가 되니 독재 도미 탐체가 뇌탑들 잡도 빼나 때문에들 마속 나서 뭐 가는 예담들 람스 뒤에 있으면 서로 소차를 대톡을 말이 내 서로 좀 사기다라 대 요래 네 같이 나서 말데 대 도망제 이 쪼더니 쪼람 탐체를 지네들 람스 뒤에 지네들 람스 뒤나 자 지네들 거친 바테라 지네들 무슨 뒤 많이 요래 지네들 무슨 뒤는 졸라 사바스미 유라지 사바오나 다들 지네들 은혜래 지네들 거라서 지네들 거친 거 요래 내가 단진 거 요래 사바스미들 지네들 무슨 다 미설랑의 포니제 지네들이 모니제는 제대로 좀 말해서 그래서 소소랑은 그냥 탁발이 사바스미 유라오네 오 마치네들 은혜래 선 이랑을 이치 제초고래 대야 하자게 좀 락가리 냠니께는 저런 사촉설을 마주봐 적절을 말이 사실사와 사촉생성 거를 보지 이시소자로 쓴 말이 사촉생은 다투박가리 다다 은혜인 것을 고조 사촉생은 다다 라주의 이유가 좋아요 봐 사바세미 강력 동해용을 때람 때랑 그 센터를 내보고요래 돈이 남신이 차대 대다의 신에 오 깝들이 다 라진이가 잡았다 그요래 배나 고조 사촉생문이 데레티니티 잡았다 가래다 니디가 잡아 니디 차토까지 돈당문이 잡아요 말이 돈당데 야 로버가 따버려야지 로버도 동네서 로버가 따버려야지 동네 샘대지 뭐 제세 배워요 제시요 말이지 대도 상거 저다 냠니 탐제는 지네들 샘도 만들어봐 아주 사바스미 샘나 마다나 지네 좀 잡아 매버리 딱 이치치 때래지 대셔 차와니
And so what is extremely important is the part in the completion stage at the end then where it says, again, I arise in the form of Chenrezig. So the essence of all practice is the completion stage. And now the Chenrezig practice, when you come to the completion stage at the end, before you go about your activities, again, you should awaken or arise as Chenrezig. So in an instant, you should again remember Chenrezig. And you train in that, for example, every time you wake up from sleeping at night. The moment you wake up, you remember Chenrezig instantly. And then you do that in all your daily activities. In an instant, just remember Chenrezig or any of your Yidam deities. And this is really also how you overcome, how you conquer all kinds of different demonic forces or the maras. There is the maras, the substantial, the material maras, and then there's the insubstantial maras and so on. They all are conquered by the Yidam deity. Actually, in terms of the war, for example, it is said that someone who is really able to think of the deity, visualize the deity, such a person cannot be harmed by an outer weapon. For example, this is a practice that's also practiced in other religions, like in the Islam religion, the Muslim religion, and so on. And this accomplishment of not being harmed is like a common siddhi, a common accomplishment, an ordinary accomplishment. So in all of your activities, in an instant, always remember Chenrezig. And so there's two ways of remembering Chenrezig. There is remembering the form of Chenrezig, and then there is remembering the actual Chenrezig. And remembering the actual Chenrezig is when love and compassion arise in your mind. That is the actual Chenrezig. And that is what will eliminate self-grasping in your mind. And from that actually also arises then the form of Chenrezig. So it is immeasurable love. And anyone who has that is Chenrezig. Any male who has it is Chenrezig. Any female who has it is Tara. So always think like that when you go around. And really from the bottom of your heart, know that when I give rise to love and compassion, I really am Chenrezig. You can really trust in that. It's very important. And that goes for any other deity that you may practice. So in this way, you never separate from Bodhichitta. And that's really the essence of the completion stage, is Bodhichitta. And so we have the relative and the ultimate Bodhichitta. And on the relative level, it means that a feeling of love arises. A feeling of immeasurable love arises for everyone, for anyone. And when you love others and you see them suffer, then their suffering will actually come to your own mind. But then it becomes empty. You understand its empty nature. So in this moment of such recognition, the obscurations of yourself and others actually become purified. So that is the bodhicitta on a conventional level first. So on a conventional level, you understand that it is that obscures sentient beings. It is the dualistic grasping. And ultimately, they do not have that obscuration. No one actually is really that. This is just a temporary arising. All sentient beings in the 6 realms are just temporarily appearing in that way. That's not what they really are. They really possess Buddha nature, and Buddha nature is beyond birth and death. So always think in this way in all your activities and whatever you do. And so the most important thing is that Chenrezig never leaves your mind, that your mind never separates from Chenrezig. So this completes the instructions.
So kasale jubuti jaja kale juwa tamji tuji chi rangi tamche de masha satang ba chekja me de shari me de yo mari samyi ji bu gori chekja yo mari de chama tashi de le tuji chi.
And thank you for everyone who joined on the online on the live stream from all over the world, and there is no one on this earth who doesn't have to die, self and others. But when we die, we do not just disappear. And what does not ever disappear is love and compassion, and everyone needs love and compassion. Anyways, thank you everyone.
Thank you, for
Rinpoche. Maji Pana Ji Jiba Nyama Me Baya Kong Le Gong De 배와이쇼 가와.
Thank you, Garchen Rinpoche, for giving us breakfast teaching. We look forward to seeing you again on the last day, March 20. Rinpoche, please have a good rest. Thank you. Everyone, now you can turn on your audio for a while to say thank you and goodbye to Garchen Rinpoche.
Bye bye.
Bucheche, Buche, Bucheche.
See you next week. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Long life Rinpoche. Long life Garchen Rinpoche.
Take care. Long life Rinpoche.
Long life Garchen Rinpoche.